I'm Brian, and that's Jeremy, and every week on PSVR,
This week,
we take a look at the new VR games that are coming to the PlayStation Store this week.
we gather up all the videos we could find, all the descriptions we can plagiarize, and we condense them down into the short video for you.
Sometimes we look at delayed games, updates, DLC, or new game announcements.
So without further ado, here's PSVR This Week.
After a fairly successful update to Contagion VR Outbreak, which brought a massive new stage called Biotech into the fray, developer Monochrome has decided to bring even more content to their game, this time in the form of a cheat menu. And to access it, however, you'll have to find and collect all of the gold zombie trophies that have been dispersed throughout the game, one per level. Not a bad reason to dive back into the zombie apocalypse. Hello Games' never-ending improvements to No Man's Sky Beyond continues this week with another update, bringing with it a full in-game body for VR, which can now even be seen in photo mode, crossplay between all platforms, improvements to lobbies and groups, speech accessibility options, bug fixes, and more. After PSVR Game Discovery failed to deliver a promised survival mode because of ESRB problems, the hope for a Minecraft VR patch has been higher than ever. Luckily, website N4G reports that, quote, a new internal update has been issued for the dev build of Minecraft on PS4, seemingly confirming that Minecraft PSVR support is finally happening, and according to the changelog history, the developers have been working on PSVR support for some time now, end quote. I have a sneaky suspicion that this patch won't drop without a bit of hype surrounding it, so expect to hear something from Sony themselves within the next few weeks. It's hard to argue that during the recent PlayStation 5 event, Sony was firing on all cylinders, showing off more than 30 new games with showstoppers like the new Horizon game and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And as title after title flashed by the screen, we were all patiently waiting for one thing, the PlayStation VR logo to appear at the end of each trailer. And yet, it never happened. Even Astrobot made an appearance in a non-VR tech demo sort of thing called Astro's Playroom, designed to show off the capabilities of Sony's new DualSense controller. So when Resident Evil Village, a game that we're 100% positive is getting PlayStation VR support, showed up with the stunning reveal trailer but failed to mention PSVR, Sony's plan was quickly becoming very obvious. Their most recent State of Plays have been highly focused events, saying very clearly, hey, we're doing this State of Play and we're going to look at 20 minutes of The Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima, and we're not going to be talking about PlayStation 5 during these shows. This means Sony is getting better and better at their messaging, and in the process, making sure they don't alienate or disappoint their fans, like they did during the very first State of Play, when millions and millions of flat-screen gamers felt alienated by the amount of time that Sony spent talking about PlayStation VR titles. So what does all this amount to? Well, if Sony is staying the course, then it means that there's a simple reason that games like Gran Turismo and Resident Evil 8 didn't show that PSVR logo. And that's because they have a PSVR-specific event coming up, where they can take deep dives into the VR content of these games without alienating the rest of the audience. If that sounds far-fetched, then hang on tight, because that's not even the most insane thing happening this year. You're the sheriff of City Block 303, a retro-futuristic cyberpunk slum where the only inhabitants of note are other lo-fi, humans too poor to jack into the platform, and rusting old robots that didn't achieve the intelligent singularity. Developers Iris VR have officially announced their VR game Lo-Fi for PlayStation 5, but strangely, or not so strangely if you were paying attention to the last story, doesn't mention PSVR support. And for a game that's labeled as a VR game, that exclusion just adds more credibility to our conspiracy theory. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of PSVR
This week. We'll be back next week to keep you up to date on all the VR games coming to the PlayStation Store.
But keep in mind that no one outside of Sony really knows what games are coming when.
But we'll do our best to keep you up to date each and every week on PSVR This Week.